Africa is brewing, the Democratic Republic of Congo is in flames. The eastern city of Goma has been taken over by M23 rebels, with several international groups raising concerns of humanitarian aid and the United Nations raising alarm on mass displacement and food shortages, as well as burdened hospitals. M23 is one of hundreds of rebel groups in the country which has fought the army for years. However, the latest escalation, this could be the beginning of a major shift with serious implications for the region's stability. Welcome to the only show that brings you happenings in the world of diplomacy and international relations, Diplomatic Affairs. My name is Harriet Nartey. The show comes off every Saturday on Pan-African television between the hours of 4:20 to 5:20 p.m. We are also global via Facebook and YouTube. So wherever you find yourself, you can always catch up with us and get to know what is happening when it comes to issues pertaining to diplomacy and international relations. I'll take a break. When I come back, I will introduce my guest to you and we will set the agenda for today's episode. Welcome back. The show is Diplomatic Affairs. Let me quickly introduce my guest for today's episode. My guest is Kambale Musavuli, analyst at the Center for Research on the Congo Kinshasa, and the topic or the focus today is to look at the situation in Congo, the invasion of Congo by the Rwandan government. This is today's agenda, and I'm so pleased to have you on our show. Welcome once again.
Thank you for the focus on the Congo today.
How have you been?
It's been quite tough. The reason it's very tough, the current situation, is that people we know are in harm's way. We have a lot of our colleagues in Goma at the moment. And as they, how do I put it, as they're coming out of their homes, they're able to connect on the internet and make phone calls. The stories that we are hearing are quite gruesome. So that's why it's very tough. And then waiting every hour for what is happening is taking a toll on the people on the ground and even us on the outside of the Congo.
When I talk about what is happening in Congo, and with reference to Rwanda's actions, alleged actions, let me put it that way, because we have seen the president of Rwanda who has come out to vehemently deny that he has anything to do with M23. But give us a bit of a background story so we can appreciate what is really happening when it comes to Congo right now.
Since 1996, Congo has known a war of aggression. And the war of aggression has been done by two nations, not just Rwanda. It's Rwanda and Uganda. These two countries have invaded the Congo twice, in 1996 and 1998. And from 2002 to present, they've removed their troops, but every now and then they bring in their troops in support of proxy rebel militias that they support. Why are they doing so? They're getting access to the land in the Congo. They're also getting access to the resources. What kind of resources are we talking about? We're talking about mineral resources using modern day technology, your cell phone, your laptop, your TVs, nuclear reactors, drones, and so on. And these minerals transit through Rwanda and Uganda. Short example to even bring that up is to look at the European Union. Right? The European Union last year signed an agreement between Rwanda and themselves on critical minerals. So as of last year, the European Union is actually getting its mineral resources, the critical minerals needed for the AI revolution, this fourth industrial revolution of building new technology. For the European Union, they're getting it from Rwanda. At the same token, the UN Group of Experts, a body which has emanated from the UN Security Council, has published numerous reports in the last 2 years with documentation of the Rwandan Defense Force application in the DRC with photo imagery, video evidence, drone footage, and even eyewitness testimonies as sources for the evidence that they provide, showing how the Rwandan Defense Force is supporting the M23 and also the actions of the M23, extracting mineral resources, making 800,000 monthly on taxation on these minerals and shipping it through Rwanda. So when we have this type of evidence, we see even the escalation of violence, which has displaced, according to the numbers we are getting from the UN right now, 500,000 people from January 1st to January 31st of just this year. 500,000 people have been displaced, added to the already 7 million Congolese who've been displaced due to the conflict. So I do understand that, people will say that this is allegation, unless the Rwandan government is telling us that the report from the UN group of experts has AI image or doctored image. We can't explain how the M23 has SHORAD system in the forest in the Congo. We can't explain how the M23 is using anti-drone missiles, SAM vehicles, and all the sophisticated weaponry that they have, when these weaponry have been tracked directly to the stockpile of the Rwanda Defense Force. So that's where we are today, and unfortunately the city of Goma fell into the hands of the M23, and they are hinting at, they are saying to us that they are going down to Bukavu in the south, and we even with the threats of going all the way to Kinshasa to take over the capital city of Kinshasa.
And how is it that this has been ongoing for almost 3 decades now, and we have not been able to resolve this situation?
First is that people do not look at the evidence, right? We are analyzing what the Rwandan government is saying, and we'll also analyze what the Congolese government is saying.
Right.
That is not what's necessary. What's necessary is to look at the facts on the ground. I will use the example of 1997, right? In 1996, the war started. In 1997, the rebels took over the capital city of Kinshasa, toppling Mobutu, who was the leader then. When that rebellion started, he had the same narrative of what we are hearing today. That there was a rebel group coming into the Congo to protect a minority Tutsi in the Congo. That's how the war started in 1996. But somehow they found themselves in the capital city of Kinshasa. Even worse, the current Minister of States for Rwanda today was in 1997 the Congolese Army Chief of Staff. His name is James Kabarebe. So even at the time, you had a Rwandan officer in the Congo as a Congolese soldier, became the Chief of Staff of our army, but today he's back in Rwanda as the Minister of State. He actually held all the positions before, such as Minister of Defense and an advisor to the presidency on military issues, right? But now he's the Minister of State. So that small example shows Rwanda implications in DRC. The second one is just to look at the trade. Rwanda today is the #1 exporter of coltan on the African continent. We all know that Rwanda does not have the reserves to actually sell this type of amount of minerals, right? Yet, Western nations continue to purchase the minerals from Rwanda, knowing very well that these resources are coming from the Congo. It's even interesting that last year, Paul Kagame actually admitted, he himself said in a video, I think he was speaking from the Uru village, where he himself said that there are people who bring minerals here, but they find their way into Europe, right? So he's pretty much admitted that he's aware of this trade. But the objective of Rwanda, but it's not just Rwanda, I have to always include Uganda, of Rwanda and Uganda, is to effectively control Congo's resources, exploit it, and get it out to the international market at a very cheap price, while Congolese are suffering from it. And the second one is an expansionist agenda they have, where they really want to take control of the lands of the Congo. In 2025, any African who hears this should be worried, right? And the example I want to use, it may be extreme, but it's something to think about, is that we are in Ghana today. We do know that there are groups who are trying to create Western Togoland. So imagine President Faure Gnassingbé of Togo decided to invade Ghana and say, I want to protect the Ewe people, and I want to create a buffer zone because the government of Accra is not actually paying attention of the revendications of people who are marginalized in Ghana. Is this the Africa that we are living in, where every nation can invade or violate territorial integrity of another nation without actually asking questions? Or we are in the Africa where we are saying, as Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso have done, is we want to unite, right? That would be even interesting if Rwanda became a province of the Congo, right? Uganda became, like, we're becoming a bigger bloc rather than carving up the continent to achieve the Pan-African dream of Kwame Nkrumah, to achieve the Pan-African dream of the forefathers of Africa who fought for us to gain independence. So those are the objectives that I can clearly see with the facts on the ground of what these two nations are doing in the Congo, but it gets lost in the discussion in the press because we are waiting for the soundbite of Paul Kagame mentioning the South African president or so on, without context of actually that South African soldiers were shot more than likely by Rwanda Defense Force soldiers with sophisticated weapons, and this is a war crime because these South African soldiers are peacekeepers, and you cannot just kill peacekeepers. That is a war crime.
Indeed. I want to find out from you, do you think at this point, or would you say that the economic interest surpasses the human interest when it comes to the Western, like from that perspective? What do you make of this?
For Western countries, it's always economic interest that is primary, right? And we know that. Rwanda does not manufacture these sophisticated weapons that I've mentioned, the short system or the air-based systems, mortars that we saw being used by the M23. So we know Rwanda's military received direct support from Western nations, the United Kingdom, the United States, even the European Union. You do know that last year, the European Union...
Are these facts?
They are actually facts that can be checked. The European Union last year provided Rwanda 20 million euros of military aid for their operations in Mozambique, because you have Rwandan troops in Mozambique. Most people don't even know that. But they are there to serve, in my view, the interest of France, particularly the oil company Total, which is in Mozambique. But they are there under the umbrella of a peacekeeping mission there. But they received 20 million euros from the European Union. And we are hearing that the M23 is using sophisticated weapons. It's very logical that it came from Rwanda, but don't take my word for it. French intelligence itself provided this information to the French government. And if you read the French government statement of last year, they determined that the same vehicle, SAM is surface-to-air missile, right? The same vehicles that the M23 is using has a particular tracking number, and that tracking number was tracked to the Rwandan army stock. So that's already been included even in the UN group of experts, that we've tracked down where these weapons are coming from. France has officially stated that this is from the Rwandan army stock, yet all they do at the moment are condemnations, are requests for the Rwandan army to withdraw their troops from DRC. I think we need bolder actions than just condemnations and requesting Rwandan army. And this is why also I've said we have passed the stage of saying these are allegations. What we should do is we should present the facts and say to ourselves, if I have a picture of a SHORAD system in the Congo, how did that get there? If I have a picture of an anti-drone vehicle in the Congo, how did I get there? If Africa Intelligence is publishing an article this past week, stating that the taking over of Goma was done with the support of assault drones, where did these assault drones come from? So the evidences have been presented, but the rhetoric of denying is totally normal. I mean, why should Kagame say that, yes, it is me, I am killing the Congolese. Yes, it is me, I'm sending the soldiers. Of course, they have to take that posture. What we should do is analyze the facts and either dismiss the facts as not corroborated properly, or say, because we believe that this evidence is credible, we should take action. And some Western nations have actually made that statement, right? When the evidence was presented in 2023 and 24, the U.S. Secretary of State stated that the evidence presented by the UN group of experts is credible. But they fell short to action. French government has done the same, but they have not done anything. They're saying that the evidence is credible, yet they're not taking the action. The question now becomes, why aren't they taking action against Rwanda when they are recognizing the evidence? It's very clear. Rwanda and Uganda are two nations who are their allies on this international war on terror that they have around the world. You have Ugandan soldiers in Iraq, in Afghanistan. You have Rwandan soldiers deployed in many operations that serves Western interests. I mentioned Mozambique. They've been in Haiti. They've been in Mali. They've been in Central African Republic. Wherever the Western nations need them, it's easier to actually get Africans to die than getting French soldiers, American soldiers, or British soldiers to die for their own economic interests. That's the model that they are using, that they are the mercenaries for hire for Western powers. But the effect of that is that we in the Congo are suffering from these policies. And it's also a call, even though we keep talking about the Western world, for us to think about the African nations, right? What are African nations doing at the moment?
That's another question that I'll be posing to you. We'll talk about whether we have actually understood the gravity of the situation, and when it comes to the people, what are they doing about it? Are we talking about it? And so, but before we go to that, you talked about moving beyond mere condemnations and acting. We've seen the West actually threatened sanctions on Rwanda. We've seen the UK government threatening Rwanda to withdraw, and we've also seen the European Union also adding its voice, and other countries as well. So for me, don't you think this is enough, like when it comes to taking a first step to ensuring that the Rwandan government actually listens and does something about the situation right now?
I don't think it's enough. The reason why I say this is, even though I disagree with the approach of Western nations when it comes to how they are dealing with Russia, but we saw how they engage in aggressive diplomacy on the question of Ukraine, right? So the way they are going about speaking about condemnations and threats, we know that they can take action if they want to, right? So they are not seeing, it's not a political risk for them right now to do something on the Congo. Because one, their citizens are not even aware of what they are doing. Germany actually has withheld aid for 2026 from the report I've just gotten, and they are considering now for 2024 for what is already allocated, what they will do with that. But we are very clear about what we are asking for, right? It's not about the aid that's going to support hospitals or medical care. We are saying that they should stop the military aid that they're providing to the Rwandan government, because the military aid is equipping rebels. So there is a direct connection. Rwanda will not have the sophisticated weapons if Western nations.
But the military aid is for Rwanda to defend itself.
No. It's actually for Rwanda to serve Western interests. This is why I share.
I'm talking about why the West is actually empowering them by way of giving them resources, military resources. For them, it is for Rwanda to be able to defend itself. Unless
I have all the information, my understanding of Western support, military support to Rwanda, is always for tactical actions on the African continent where they need them. So when the European Union provided the 20 million euros to Rwanda, it was for the operation in Mozambique, right? And if you have to ask yourself today, right, the Rwandan military with all the sophisticated weapon, why is Rwanda trying to protect itself? Against whom? Is Congo attacking Rwanda? Who is attacking Rwanda? If we say that it's people who committed the genocide in Rwanda, right? That was in 1994. That's what, 30 years ago, right? Are those people alive? If they're not alive and they appear to be young, right? I'm speaking specifically for the FDLR rebel group that Rwanda says so is a pretext of why they engage in the Congo. If you look at the FDLR soldiers, they seem young to me. So they are in the 20s and in the 30s, right? Did these young people participate in the Rwandan genocide? If you look at these young soldiers as a young combatant, they are in the 20s and the 30s. Were they in 1994 as a baby killing other people? So the question now becomes, when we start thinking even about the conflict of Rwanda needs to protect itself, is it protecting itself against its own citizens? Because they have election where Paul Kagame wins by 99%. Is it to protect itself from the opposition? Where we say Rwanda is a country where most women, right, are in power. The parliament is majority women. Women have a voice. But every single woman who's ever run for presidency ended up in jail. I'm speaking about even lately Diane Rwigara, who ended up in jail for the 2 times she tried to run for presidency. And also Victoire Ingabire, who also ended up in jail. So who are they trying to protect themselves? So we know, just as in the history of the Congo, when Congo was Zaire, when President Mobutu was given Western support, he used it to oppress the Zairean people, right? And used it also for other operations across the African continent. That's why you saw Zairean soldiers, they were even engaged in Nigeria during the Biafran War. Most people don't know that Zairean soldiers actually came. So anywhere the US needed to have the interest served, Zaire played a role. Rwanda is playing that role today. Right? So I'm very clear about why they are being provided the weapons.
Right. Now, let me just come to the various peace accords.
Yes.
That are supposed to end the situation that we are witnessing today. This has not yielded any fruit, obviously, from what is happening right before our eyes today. What do you think is the best approach? Because back in East Africa, we saw initially Angola was the mediator trying to call for peace, a ceasefire, working with Felix Tshisekedi and of course Kagame as well. But it doesn't look like this has yielded any results when it comes to trying to make peace in the region. Next, we have also seen that William Ruto, Kenya's president, tried as much as possible to get the 2 leaders together at a table and discuss this issue. But again, the Congolese president was absent. He did not show up. What do you think could have actually led to his decision not to show up?
I can't be a spokesperson, unfortunately, but I will describe those 2 processes. The first process was the Nairobi process, right? That's the initial process, and the Rwanda process came after. Right? The Nairobi process was to bring not just the M23, but all armed groups into Nairobi to find a way forward for them to put out the guns and so on. So that's what the Nairobi process is for, right? The Rwanda process is for the head of states, right? Paul Kagame and Tshisekedi, to resolve any pending matter. Where is the deadlock? The deadlock is that in the Rwanda process, Paul Kagame is insisting for the M23 to be part of the discussion. But that's not what the Rwanda process is for. Right? The Rwanda process is to bring the head of state together. So the Congolese government is saying it does not make sense that you are bringing the M23 into this discussion, because this is between states. This is not between the rebel group. If the M23 need to be engaged, they need to be engaged in Nairobi, not in the Rwanda process. So most people in the media are not discussing that. So it's just, well, this did not work. This is why we are at a stalemate. It's the principle of what is actually happening, right? We have a country that has become the official spokesperson of the M23 in the Rwanda process, making demands on behalf of a rebel group, which is very bizarre that most people are not understanding even when Paul Kagame speaks, why he as a head of state has to actually speak on behalf of the M23. So they have grievances. So he is aware of these grievances. But now, the M23, who are they? It's a militia group that actually started in March of 2012. What they are saying today is the reason why they started is not actually what happened in March 2012. So we have a complete disconnect with history. They are saying that the reason why they are fighting is because the Congolese government did not abide by the agreement of the March 23, 2009 peace accord. And what is the issue with the peace accord according to them is that the integration didn't go well, and then the clause for amnesty also was not applied. That's what they say at face value. But what happened in March 2012? Why did they leave the Congolese army with the fights during that time? In March of 2012, there was international pressure on the Congolese government to turn in one of the M23 commanders to the ICC. His name was Bosco Tanganda. Right. Bosco Tanganda led them. He was integrated into the Congolese army, but he had an ICC arrest warrant for crimes against humanity and war crimes. Kiwanja, burying people alive in hundreds and so on. People can look at the information. With that international pressure to arrest him in March, he went inside of the bush. As soon as he went inside of the bush, his loyalist forces, Sultani Makenga and others, left the Congolese army and said, the reason why we are leaving the Congolese army is because the Congolese army did not abide or implement the peace accord of 2009. So if you don't have this context, then you believe what they say actually have any merit. But the reality is, we have, since 1996, literally the same rebel group. Sultani Makenga, who leads the M23 militarily, was part of the rebellion in 1996 as AFDL, was part of the rebellion in the Congo in 1998 as RCD, was part of the Congo in the 2008 uprising of the same group where they called themselves CNDP. And then in 2012, that same group rose up as M23 as we know that today. But today, we are calling them M23. They're not calling themselves M23. They're calling themselves AFC, Alliance Fleuve Congo. So we know that they have invaded the Congo with the support and backing of the Rwanda Defense Force specifically, yet they have not been held accountable for the crimes.
The rest of Africa is not catching this fever. Why?
I think this time is different. I'm noticing a few people are now speaking up. But I also believe that the reason why they're not able to act on the Congo is because they do not have the information on the Congo. Let's be very clear that there is a superb PR campaign in presenting Rwanda in a certain image. Now, I've been in Ghana for now 6 years. It's quite fascinating to see how many political leaders, when they go on TV, they will always say, look at Rwanda. And then I ask myself, how do they know what's happening in Rwanda? I say, it's a country where it's clean, the administration works.
Well, we talk about the positives.
Right. But in this positive, do we even pay attention to what's happening to the Rwandan people themselves? We look at the army. Who are the high commanding officers of the army? It's a minority group. We look at the administration and even how the country is running, right? This has become an ethnocratic state, right? Where a minority is leading the majority of the population.
In all of this, where is the AU, the African Union?
The AU, unfortunately, is not quite helpful at the moment. They are not even able to say the Rwanda Defense Forces are in the Congo. In their statement, they keep speaking about external forces as if these external forces are coming from the sky, right? So the AU has not been helpful. Musa Faki Mahama, who's the AU commissioner, as well, has not been helpful. Even many countries, I mean, as you said, we are closing, I think it will be important to speak from the vantage point of where we are here in Ghana. I am unclear of Ghana's foreign policy as it relates to the Congo, right? That it will be very important to hear the voice of Ghana in this situation, because Ghana is actually a leader at the African Union, and Ghana is even a leader at the United Nations. To have the voice of the new administration in Ghana on the situation, to say that the territorial integrity of any African country must be protected at all costs. That we are not here to cover up African continent, we are here for Pan-African unity. Having that type of voice from Mahama here in Ghana will be very important. From the foreign ministry here also will be important.
So far we haven't seen any communique from any, whether the presidency or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs yet. So we are still waiting to see as the days go by. We pray that this, comes to a stop, as quickly as this can happen, so that we can have peace in the region and of course on the rest of the African continent. Now Kambale, I am very particular, let me say, when it comes to media's involvement in telling the story. I have seen you hopping from one platform to the other at the international level. You've been on so many platforms at the international level, but I haven't really seen the desire for Africans themselves, which it was why I asked you, do you think the continent is catching the fever? Is this something that we feel we are too far away from, that we are not directly impacted? Is that why we haven't really been, doing something, as in adding our voice and our platforms? I've seen terms from Nigeria, the singer who has come out. She had a concert in Rwanda and she cancelled the concert. So she is using her platform to advocate for peace in the region and also freedom for the people of Congo. What can we do as we wrap up?
Continue to speak about the situation in the Congo in any platform we can. I think those who are being impacted by the conflict in the Congo, such as South Africa. South Africa has lost 14 soldiers in the Congo in the past week. In South Africa today, every day they are discussing the situation. Why did we lose soldiers in Congo and so on? Ghana sent peacekeepers also around, right? They are in Lebanon, if I'm not mistaken. They may be deployed in the Congo. So for those who are directly connected to in the peacekeeping operation, has noticed that in the countries there is attention to what is happening when only there is a crisis. But what we should actually ask ourselves as African is that if there is an African country that has lost over 6 million people in the past 30 years, right? We should think differently about how we tell the story of the Congo. No matter what we believe. We may believe what Kagame is saying is true. We may disagree with the Congolese government, but no human being can lose their life because of shiny rocks on the ground. And that if we don't solve the problem of the Congo, as Che Guevara shared, even Kwame Nkrumah said it as a quote, that Congo is the heart of Africa. A wound to the Congo is a wound inflicted on the African continent. This is a founding father of Ghana who said it in the 60s already, not thinking about the centrality of the Congo. That as long as Congo is at this level, no African conflict can be solved. And that's a call for the media. Many people have different reasons why they do not cover the Congo. But when you know and you have the responsibility to tell the story and provide the analysis that will allow people to take action so that they know, okay, if I hear about the situation in the Congo in my country, I will push for my government to stop the conflict by putting pressure on negative forces against the Congo so that we also in the Congo can deal with our own internal challenges. That's what I can say about the media, but I think you are best placed to answer that, but you are covering the Congo as we're speaking. So we hope
we are using our platform to also contribute to getting information out there. All right, thank you very much, Kambale. So that was Kambale Musavuli, analyst at the Center for Research on the Congo Kinshasa, joining us to provide us with insights on the situation in Congo. Okay, so now let's talk about vetting. Let's talk about the Minister Designate for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. Now, he has expressed worry over the spate of terrorism and extremism, which has gained foothold in the Sahel and parts of the continent. Appearing appearing before the Appointments Committee, he also reiterated government's renewed efforts to curb the menace which has undermined effective governance, compromised national security and law enforcement. He also pledged to use Ghana's foreign policy in creating jobs to curtail the exploitation of vulnerable Ghanaians who fall prey to being recruited as employees in the Gulf region. Touching on the execution of Ghana's foreign policy, the nominee, who doubles as member of parliament for the North Tongue constituency, promised to put the country's interests above all matters and work assiduously using Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's approach in leveraging on the positives which will inure to Ghana's benefit. Policies, programs and initiatives which are already in existence, he said, will be maintained to push Ghana to where it ought to be. Now, this is where we draw the curtain on today's episode. It's been very insightful, educative and informative as we brought you all the stories and the updates happening when it comes to issues pertaining to diplomacy and international relations. We look forward to hosting you same time next week. Enjoy the rest of our programs.